Hello, darlings. I am Cassandra. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming. In today's video, guys, we're going to talk about being spiritually poor, what it means, and I also have a channel message from my Do You doll that I have with me today. I don't think you guys have met her, and I'm sorry they don't have names. I do sell them in my Etsy shop. I mean, not mine, but I'll make one for you. But basically, I'm just going to give you just a quick little look at her. She was probably one of the first ones that I made before I kind of refined the pattern a little bit better, especially the hands. But anyway, I'm going to give you her channel message, which is pretty bomb as usual. But I want to go first, okay? So we're going to go over some signs that you are spiritually poor, okay? Now, maybe you might disagree, and that's cool, because I love a rich, juicy, verbal, I don't want to say debate, but exchange of information. But anyway, guys, so one of the signs that you are spiritually poor, let's just go jump on that here, is if you do not trust anybody but yourself. If you have somehow come to the conclusion that humans cannot be trusted, that you just are very jaded, and it sounds mean. Well, you know how there are just some people who are just to the point where they just feel like they can't trust anybody because they've been hurt so many times. It robs you of your faith in life, and it robs you of your ability to have hope. And like, without hope, like, what is the point? You know what I'm saying? So if you just feel like, I don't trust myself, I don't trust people. But I'm gonna tell you something else. I think if a person can only trust themselves, they are probably a person who cannot be trusted as well. I'm not, throwing shade or anything, but sometimes just knowing that, how do I say this? I just think sometimes when some people get hurt, they embody that pain to the degree that it changes their complete outlook on life. And when you're interacting with them, when you're talking to them, they're just so down, or they're just so sometimes they use sarcasm to kind of cover their anger or disappointment with humanity. But I'm going to go over some reasons why people are like this and some things you can do. But if you lack trust in the world, trust in other people, and you only feel you can trust yourself, that is one of the signs of being spiritually poor. So the next sign I have for you is if you feel powerless to change your life. Like if you're one of these people who feel like it is what it is, okay? It's destiny. That's the way it's supposed to be. That's just life. We don't get to change our reality. I know a lot of people, especially older people, who kind of feel like that's God's plan. That is the way the world is supposed. If God wanted it to be different, it would be different. We all born with a destiny, with a script, or the way things are supposed to be. So if you feel like no matter what you do, if things, no matter how hard you try, you can't get a promotion, or you can't get a new job, or you can't get your business off the ground, you feel like no matter what you do, your life is just not improving, it's not getting any better. Yeah, guys, this is a sign of being spiritually poor, because you are a magical being. You are created in the image of your creator. You have so much power, and if you come to this planet and you really truly feel that this is the way it's supposed to be, I'm powerless to change my future, you believe that you have an unavoidable destiny that has nothing to do with the choices you make every day. Like, for example, you wake up in the morning and you just think, well, I can't make more money because this is how much my job pay, or school isn't for me. If I was meant to go to school, I would have gone to school. But what if you just did something different? Like, what if you actually started your business, or if you decided to put an application out to get a new job? You know what I'm saying? But it's that mentality of, it is what it is. This is the way it's supposed to be. If the universe wanted things to be different, it would be different. That is now for this one, I think this is truly a sign of being spiritually poor. Another sign that you are spiritually poor is if you have stopped believing in love, or you have never been in love, or you think that love is conditional and you must exchange gifts and money, and you have to do certain things in order for a person to love you. You don't feel that people really love you be unconditionally. Sometimes the reason we don't get the things in life that we want is because deep in our heart we don't believe that we deserve them. Add this unconditional self-love jewelry to your magical repertoire to bring in more wealth, more love, because when you fall in love with yourself, so will the world. There are actually people who believe there is no such thing as love. You think a baby loves you, but they're really hungry. How jaded is that? The baby doesn't love you. The baby is just hungry. They just need you to meet their needs, and you think that your baby love you, or you think that your kid love you, and they just think that all relationships are transactional. So people truly believe that, not people, but there are people that believe that love is an illusion, to just simply have your needs met, and that you must give something in exchange in order to receive affection or adoration. But it's not like this pure emotion or expression of how another human can feel about another human. I remember when I was a social worker, I had a case where, oh my God, there was a case where there was a person who mom gave them away when they were a baby, and they really had a hard time believing that anybody else in the world could ever love them. It was a very, very, very difficult case. But I remember when I would, try to go over my little techniques and talk to her about, here are some things you can do to love yourself. And I would never forget this as long as I live. She looked at me and said, I was inside of her for 9 months, and I didn't know anybody in the world. And how could she have given me away? Like, if your own mom does not love you, how can anybody love you? And I don't know what happened, but I just know that I had never experienced anything. Look what I experienced, right? But just to hear somebody just, 10 toes down, like there was no convincing her that love existed in this world. So if you feel like love is not real, that love doesn't exist, you've never been truly loved by another person, baby, you spiritually poor. I'm sorry. The next sign that you're spiritually poor is if you, which kind of ties in, if you are afraid of getting hurt, so you always hold back from sharing too much of yourself with others. So as long as you know you didn't give your all to a person or a situation, you know you won't be disappointed. So no one can hurt you, because you can always say, I held back some for me. So if you're the kind of person who feel like, I've never completely tried at anything, and therefore I don't have to worry about being disappointed, like started a business, or decided that you were gonna go back to school or try to play guitar, whatever. But if you have just truly decided, I'm only gonna give so much, I'm not gonna spend my whole day practicing just to be booed off stage. Yeah, right. There's just no way I'm just gonna go and give my all to some person who is probably going to leave me for somebody else. I'm going to always breadcrumb. I'm going to always give as little as I can and save the majority for myself, because this is going to protect my heart. Another sign of being spiritually poor, which kind of ties into the one I just talked about, is when you are unable to commit to a person, a place, or a goal. Like you've never completely given your all, because you are preserving yourself so that you are not disappointed if things don't work out. I know a lot of people like that. They don't, I'm not, so they have a built-in excuse. Well, I didn't study all night. I barely looked at it. Or I know people who can't commit to like a single person in a relationship, and they always have people lined up, or they always have to date multiple people because they're afraid that if they completely give themselves to one person, that this one person has the power to hurt them. So they've never been faithful to anybody in their life. I know a lot of people like that. I mean, just from talking to people, from being a therapist for years. So if you feel like you're afraid to give your all to, you really tried to get into law school, but, you didn't make it, or you really tried to be a doctor and you gave it your all, you studied all night, but you weren't accepted, you didn't do well. I used to always tell my kids that it's not about the outcome, right? And you don't really know who you are until you give something like 3,000%. When you give something your all, it changes you. It's rather you win the prize. Like, say for example, if you look at a tennis match, like Venus and Serena. I love Serena because she cries, and I'm a crybaby too. And when you give your all and you practice all night long and you lose, yeah, it might hurt, but you know what? You wouldn't be able to experience the pleasure of winning if you are unable to experience the pain of losing. You know what I mean? But you have to give your all, because that is a commitment that you make to yourself. Now, another sign that you are spiritually poor is you have never had a broken heart. Child, let me tell you something. If you have never, I'm talking about a real broken heart, where you understand music at a whole different level. One of my favorite country songs, one of my favorite songs in the world is He Stopped Loving Her Today. I still remember the first time I ever heard that song. I had this little golden radio, and it was like it was a radio back in the day when you used to turn it dial. And and I was listening to that song, and oh my God, and I realized what happened, that he was telling a story about this man who loved this woman until his last breath, and he said he stopped loving her today. They put a wreath upon his door, and soon they'll carry him away. I was like, what the Jiminy Cricket? Like, I remember, I think I was really young, right? Not that young, I was like a teenager, but I still remember hearing that song and just like, when I realized that he loved her till the day, till the day he took his last breath. And then the other song, Teddy Pendergrass, is It Don't Hurt Now. Oh, that song to me it's a funny song because, you know, he's talking about it don't hurt now, but it sounds like it still hurt really bad. Yeah, it just doesn't hurt as much as it did yesterday. Yeah. So, I mean, when you have had a broken heart, life is like, guys, I'm telling you, I know it may sound terrible. Oh, another song, Driver's License by Olivia Rodrigo. Oh my gosh, that song to me is genius. I love that song. It's somebody, you know, got their heart stomped on. And I think Say Something, I don't want to name all these songs, but I'm saying when you have truly had your heart broken, like stumped down to the ground, where you have cried yourself to sleep, and you listen to a song and you just feel like, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel. That's an amazing feeling. If you've never felt that, if you've never like not bathed for like 3 days and got broke down and listened, you don't even know how rich what a rich experience that is when you look back on it. Because I'm gonna tell you why it's a rich experience. If you've having your heart broken, it means that you have truly loved somebody, that you have really loved someone, and someone has loved you, man. And even though you have, you know, lost that person, but imagine if you had never experienced love of that degree, of that decadent and rich and meaningful. You know what I'm saying? So if you've never experienced a broken heart, y'all, you are spiritually poor. Another sign that you're spiritually poor, and this is one of my favorites, is that okay, I don't know how to list this, so I have to tell you a story. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Forrest Gump. And there was a scene with the captain who had lost his legs, and they were out, you know, on a boat fishing, because I think he was looking for shrimp or whatever, and it was a thunderstorm, and he was like, come on, like he was talking to God, and he was having it out with God. I want to say, if you've never had a come to Jesus moment with God, and where you just really like, God, what's up? Like in the movie Eat, Pray, Love, where she was going through some struggles with her first husband, and that night she was like, God, please tell me what to do. And she said she wasn't familiar with him. She wanted to say, hey, by the way, my name is Elizabeth or something, but she had never really spoken to God. If you haven't had a moment where you have reached out to something bigger than you, that's a good way to phrase that. You haven't reached out to the universe. You haven't. One day I was driving to work, and you know, guys, you know, Earth can be daunting, right? And I don't know if you've ever seen, I think it's Toy Story, but it was different for me. And I just remember saying, breaker, breaker, come in, command. I am on planet Earth. It is spinning in the cosmos. I'm in the Earth suit of an African American woman. I don't know how why I did this, but come in, command, send back up. You know what I'm saying? If you have not had a moment where you've really asked the universe, all that is, God, something bigger than you, what the Jiminy Cricket is going on right now, child, you are spiritually poor. Because it's knowing, I think sometimes, even for people who don't believe, you know, in God or a source, or that the universe, or it's something bigger than themselves, but to have a moment of knowing that you are connected to something bigger than you, and you are reaching out for support and backup, child, I'm gonna hold you on this one. You are spiritually poor. Yes, you are.